The massive crystal dome of Xerion Prime sparkled under 3 different suns as thousands of beings from across the galaxy gathered for the most important meeting of the year. Ships of every shape and size filled the orbital docks above the neutral world. Some looked like flowing metal ribbons that twisted through space, while others resembled massive geometric crystals that pulsed with inner light. The air inside the great assembly hall hummed with dozens of different languages being translated in real time. Ambassador Veltar adjusted his ceremonial robes and looked around the crowded hall during the lunch break. The tall, blue-skinned diplomat from the Zephyrian Republic had always been popular with the younger delegates. His storytelling sessions during these diplomatic recesses had become something of a tradition over the years. Today, a group of newly appointed ambassadors from various worlds had gathered around him in one of the side chambers, eager to hear his famous tales. "Tell us about the old stories," requested a young Altarian delegate whose crystalline features sparkled with curiosity. "The ones about the lost civilizations," Veltar smiled, his 4 eyes twinkling with mischief. He loved these moments when serious politics gave way to wonder and imagination. "Ah, but these are not stories about lost civilizations, young ones. These are tales about a species that may never have existed at all." The group leaned in closer as Veltar's voice took on the rhythmic cadence of an ancient storyteller. Long ago, when the first star maps were being drawn and the earliest trade routes established, there were whispers of a world far beyond the known systems. A blue planet covered mostly in water, orbiting a yellow star, and on this world lived beings who called themselves humans. Several delegates chuckled softly. The idea of a water-covered world seemed absurd to most species who had evolved on dry, rocky planets or in the vacuum of space itself. "These humans," Veltar continued, "were said to be unlike any species we know today. They had no natural weapons, no claws, no poison, no thick armor plating. They could not fly, could not breathe underwater for long periods, and could not survive in the cold depths of space without artificial protection. By all measures, they should have been prey animals, hiding in caves and hoping the real predators would not find them." A young delegate from the Corvan system raised a tentacled appendage. "Then how did they survive? Surely such weak creatures would have been extinct within a few generations." Veltar's expression grew more serious. "This is where the legends become truly strange, my friends. The stories say that these humans did not just survive, they thrived. They hunted creatures 10 times their size, using nothing but primitive tools they crafted themselves. When ice covered their world and food became scarce, they did not simply die like most species would. Instead, they adapted, they moved, they found new ways to live." The delegates exchanged glances. This was beginning to sound less like folklore and more like a survival manual. "But the most incredible part of the legend," Veltar said, lowering his voice dramatically, "is what happened when their world tried to kill them. Massive rocks fell from space, volcanoes erupted with the force of stellar explosions, and their planet's climate changed again and again. Each time, when any reasonable species would have accepted extinction, these humans supposedly did something. That defies all logic." "What did they do?" several delegates asked almost in unison. "They refused to give up. The stories claim they looked at each disaster and asked themselves not, 'How do we survive this?' but 'How do we make sure this never threatens us again?' They built tools to watch the sky for dangerous rocks. They learned to predict when their planet would shake and tremble. They spread to every corner of their world, from the frozen poles to the hottest deserts, ensuring that no single catastrophe could ever destroy them all." The room had grown quiet. Even the more skeptical delegates found themselves drawn into the tale. Senior Ambassador Korth of the Hegemony had been listening from the doorway, his massive form casting a shadow across the gathered crowd. His species had conquered 17 star systems through superior technology and overwhelming force. The idea of primitives surviving through mere stubbornness annoyed him greatly. "Enough of this nonsense," he rumbled, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had negotiated treaties with entire galactic sectors. "We are here to discuss real matters of trade, territory, and resource allocation. These fairy tales about mythical species serve no purpose in serious diplomatic discourse. If such creatures ever existed, which they clearly did not, they would have contacted us by now. The galaxy has been mapped. Every habitable system has been surveyed. There are no mysterious water worlds hiding primitive survivors. The younger delegates looked embarrassed, as if they had been caught playing children's games during an important business meeting. They quickly dispersed, returning to their duties and leaving Veltar alone with his thoughts. Meanwhile, in the main assembly hall, the Coalition Council was putting the finishing touches on the expansion protocols, new boundaries that would govern which species could explore which sectors of unmapped space. The vote was unanimous, establishing exploration rights that extended far beyond their current territories. None of them realized that these new boundaries would soon bring them face to face with a small blue planet that was definitely not uninhabited. The Starseeker drifted silently through the void, its sleek hull reflecting the distant light of unfamiliar stars. Captain Mordek stood on the bridge, his 6 arms working different control panels as he reviewed the latest sector reports. 3 months had passed since the Coalition's expansion protocols were approved, and survey teams were now pushing deeper into unexplored space than ever before. The ship itself was a marvel of Coalition engineering, built by 7 different species, working together. Its sensors could detect the faintest energy signature from halfway across a solar system, while its computers could process information faster than most organic minds could even comprehend. The crew of 43 beings represented 12 different worlds, each bringing their unique abilities to the mission of mapping the galaxy's outer territories. "Captain," called out Navigator Zeph from her station, her insectoid features focused intently on the stellar charts. "We're approaching grid section 47 Alpha. Initial scans show a standard yellow star system with multiple planetary bodies." Mordek nodded absently. They had catalogued dozens of similar systems over the past few weeks. Most contained nothing but lifeless rocks and gas giants. Occasionally they would find signs of ancient microbial life or interesting mineral deposits, but actual civilization was incredibly rare in these distant regions. "Beginning standard survey protocol," announced Science Officer Trell, his crystalline fingers dancing across his instruments. The tall, translucent being from the Silicate Consortium was one of the Coalition's best analysts, capable of processing vast amounts of data simultaneously through his unique neural structure. The Starseeker's advanced sensors began their systematic sweep of the solar system. The first 2 planets were exactly what they expected: a scorched rock too close to the star and a volcanic hellscape with a toxic atmosphere. But as their scanners focused on the 3rd planet, something strange began to appear on their screens. "Captain, I'm detecting significant electromagnetic activity from the 3rd world," Trell reported, his voice carrying a note of confusion. "The patterns are highly organized and appear to be artificial in origin." Mordek moved to look over his science officer's shoulder. The data streaming across the screen showed regular pulses of energy emanating from the planet's surface, along with what appeared to be structured signals bouncing between the planet and several objects in its orbital space. "Could be automated systems from an abandoned colony," suggested Communications Officer Velka, her tentacles swaying as she spoke. "We've encountered those before in the outer territories." But Trell was shaking his head, his crystalline form shifting colors as he processed more information. "These signals are too complex and varied for simple automated systems. Look at these patterns. They're constantly changing, adapting. This suggests active intelligence." The bridge crew gathered around the science station as more data flowed in. The planet showed clear signs of industrial activity, artificial lights visible on the night side, organized heat signatures that looked like cities, and most remarkably, several small objects moving in precise orbits around the world. "Those are definitely artificial satellites," Trell confirmed. "Primitive by Coalition standards, but functional. And Captain, I'm detecting what appears to be chemical propulsion signatures. Someone down there has achieved spaceflight." A thrill of excitement ran through the crew. First contact with a new species was rare and always significant. Most civilizations were discovered only after they had developed faster-than-light travel and begun exploring beyond their home systems. Finding. A species in the early stages of space exploration was almost unheard of. Begin monitoring their communications, Mordek ordered. See if you can determine their language patterns and technological level. We'll need a full cultural assessment before making any contact. For the next several hours, the Star Seeker maintained a careful distance while its sensors collected every piece of information they could gather. The communications traffic from the planet was enormous, thousands of different signals carrying everything from entertainment broadcasts to what appeared to be scientific data exchanges. They're remarkably active for a pre-FTL civilization, observed Trell. I'm detecting references to something they call space programs and orbital missions. They seem to have multiple nations or groups working on space exploration simultaneously. That's unusual, commented Navigator Zeph. Most species develop spaceflight through a unified planetary government. Competition between different groups usually slows technological development. Mordek was studying the tactical display when he made his decision. Set course for the system's edge. We'll observe from a safe distance and begin preparation for first contact protocols. The Starseeker engaged its engines and began moving deeper into the solar system. Captain Mordek was already composing his initial report to Coalition Command, documenting their discovery of what appeared to be a thriving pre-FTL civilization. But as their ship crossed an invisible boundary, roughly at the orbit of the system's eighth planet, every alarm on the bridge began screaming at once. "Multiple contacts," shouted Tactical Officer Kren, his scaled hands flying over his controls. Massive energy signatures emerging from behind the gas giant. The main screen lit up with dozens of new contacts, each one larger than anything in the Coalition's ship databases. The vessels seemed to materialize out of nowhere, their sleek forms unlike any design the crew had ever encountered. "How did they hide from our sensors?" demanded Mordek, but no one had an answer. The unknown ships moved with perfect precision, forming a loose formation that somehow managed to surround the Star Seeker without appearing threatening. It was a display of coordination that suggested advanced tactical thinking and communication systems. "They're not attacking," observed Kren with relief, "but they're definitely not letting us leave either." Captain Mordek straightened his uniform and moved to the communications station. "Open a channel and transmit standard first contact protocols, all languages, all known diplomatic frequencies." The message went out into space, carrying the Coalition's formal greeting to any unknown species. It was a carefully crafted communication that had been developed over centuries of peaceful contact with new civilizations. But the response was complete silence. The unknown fleet continued its perfect formation, waiting with a patience that was somehow more unnerving than any aggressive action would have been. Admiral Jinwoo had been staring at the same tactical display for the past 6 hours, but his mind kept wandering to his daughter's science project about the moons of Jupiter. She had asked him why humans built so many space stations around the outer planets, and he had given her the standard answer about resource extraction and strategic positioning. But the real reason was much simpler. Humans had learned long ago that someone always needed to be watching the dark spaces between worlds. The bridge of the Defiant hummed with quiet efficiency. Unlike the colorful multi-species crews of Coalition vessels, this ship was operated entirely by humans. The design philosophy was different too. Where alien ships often resembled works of art or natural forms, human vessels looked exactly like what they were, tools built for a specific purpose. Every surface served a function. Every system had multiple backups, and every crew member had trained for scenarios that other species would consider impossible. "Admiral, we're picking up something on the long-range sensors," reported Lieutenant Dae-hyun from the sensor station. His fingers moved across holographic displays that showed the entire outer solar system in three-dimensional detail. "Unknown vessel, bearing 27 Mark IV, approximately 800,000 kilometers beyond Neptune's orbit." Jinwoo moved to the tactical station, his experienced eyes quickly analyzing the data. The ship was clearly not human in origin. Its energy signature was completely foreign, and its design appeared to be some kind of hybrid construction, using materials and techniques that Earth's databases had never encountered. "How long has it been there?" he asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Just appeared on sensors 12 minutes ago, sir. Either it just arrived, or it has some kind of advanced stealth technology that we've never seen before. The Admiral considered their options. For the past 30 years, humanity had maintained a careful watch over their solar system while secretly monitoring communications from the broader galaxy. They had learned dozens of alien languages, studied coalition politics, and developed technologies that could compete with anything the galactic community had to offer. But they had also made a collective decision to remain hidden until they better understood what kind of neighbors they would be dealing with. That decision was apparently about to be tested. Launch a reconnaissance probe, Jinwoo ordered. Full stealth configuration. I want to know everything about that ship, its capabilities, its crew composition, and what it's doing in our system. But before the probe could be deployed, something unexpected happened. The alien vessel began transmitting. Lieutenant Hee Jin at the communications station turned to face the Admiral, her expression a mixture of confusion and excitement. "Sir, we're receiving what appears to be a standard diplomatic greeting. The transmission is being sent on multiple frequencies simultaneously, and it's in languages we recognize." "Coalition languages?" Jinwoo asked, though he had already guessed the answer. "Yes, sir. Zephyrian, Altarian, Hegemony Standard, and at least 6 others. The message is identifying the vessel as a coalition survey ship requesting peaceful contact with any local inhabitants." Jinwoo felt a cold chill run down his spine. After 3 decades of careful observation and preparation, first contact was happening whether humanity was ready or not. The alien ship had found Earth, and now decisions made in classified meetings years ago would be put to the ultimate test. "Signal. The fleet," he commanded. "Execute Protocol 7. All vessels to battle stations, but maintain defensive postures only." Across the outer solar system, dozens of human ships that had been conducting routine training exercises suddenly shifted into combat formations. Unlike the single alien vessel, which appeared to be alone and far from any support, the human fleet had been designed from the beginning to operate as a coordinated whole. "Open a channel," Jinwoo ordered. "All coalition languages, wide broadcast." Hee Jin's fingers flew over her controls as she prepared the transmission array. "Channel open, sir." The Admiral took a deep breath and spoke words that would change human history forever. "Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Jinwoo of the Earth Defense Force. We acknowledge your diplomatic transmission and welcome you to our solar system. We are aware of the Galactic Coalition and have been monitoring your communications for several decades. Please identify yourself and state your intentions." The message was transmitted simultaneously in 17 different alien languages, each one pronunciation perfect and grammatically flawless. The result was exactly what Jinwoo had hoped for: complete and total shock on the alien vessel. On the Star Seeker, Captain Mordek stared at his communications officer in disbelief. "Did you just say they responded in our languages?" "Multiple." "Coalition languages?" "Yes, sir," Velka confirmed, her tentacles trembling with excitement. "Perfect pronunciation, formal diplomatic protocols. They know who we are, and they've been watching us." But Trell, the science officer, had gone completely still, his crystalline form flickering with rapid color changes that indicated extreme mental activity. "Captain," he said slowly, "they said Earth Defense Force, and they mentioned something called Earth." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Every educated being in the coalition knew the ancient stories about the mythical world, called Earth and its legendary inhabitants. But those were just stories, weren't they? "Run a full analysis on their transmission," Mordek ordered. "I want to know everything. Voice patterns, language structure, cultural references, everything." As the data flowed across their screens, more pieces of an impossible puzzle began falling into place. The aliens had used phrases and concepts that appeared in the oldest coalition folklore. They had referenced their home world using the exact same name that appeared in myths that were thousands of years old. "Captain," Trell announced in a voice barely above a whisper, "according to our cultural databases, these beings appear to match the physical and behavioral descriptions from the ancient human legends." Before anyone could respond, their sensors detected something that made everyone on the bridge freeze with terror and amazement. All around them, space itself seemed to shimmer and bend as dozens of massive vessels decloaked simultaneously. The alien fleet that had seemed to appear from nowhere was revealing its true size, and it was enormous. Each ship was unique in design, but clearly built by the same species using the same technological principles. They moved with perfect coordination, their formation both beautiful and absolutely terrifying in its precision. Captain Mordek realized that his single survey vessel was surrounded by what appeared to be one of the most advanced military fleets he had ever encountered. But instead of feeling threatened, he felt something else entirely: wonder. The myths were real. The legendary humans actually existed, and they had been watching the galaxy from their hidden world, preparing for this moment. "Incoming transmission," Velka announced. Admiral Jinwu's voice filled the bridge once again, calm and professional. "Captain Mordek of the Coalition Survey Service, we request a formal parley. Please follow our escort vessels to Luna Station, where we can conduct proper diplomatic discussions. We have much to discuss about humanity's place in the galactic community." As a small human ship moved alongside the Star Seeker to guide them deeper into the solar system, Mordek composed a priority message to Coalition Command that would change everything. The ancient legends were not myths. We have found the humans, and they have found us. Luna Station hung in space like a massive silver wheel, slowly rotating against the backdrop of Earth's pale blue surface. Captain Mordek pressed his face against the observation window of the transport shuttle, unable to believe what he was seeing. The station was enormous, easily 10 times larger than the biggest Coalition facility he had ever visited. But what truly amazed him was how it had been completely invisible to their senses, until the humans chose to reveal it. "Stealth technology," explained Lieutenant Commander Min Jun, the human officer who had been assigned as their guide. "We've had visitors before, mostly automated probes from various Coalition species. We've always made sure they saw exactly what we wanted them to see, which was usually nothing at all." The shuttle docked with a gentle thud, and Mordek found himself walking through corridors that felt both familiar and completely alien. The architecture was purely functional, but there was something about the proportions and the way light moved through the spaces that spoke of a completely different way of thinking about design and engineering. Admiral Jinwu was waiting in what the humans called the diplomatic suite, a comfortable room with large windows overlooking Earth. The planet below looked nothing like the descriptions from the ancient stories. Instead of a primitive world struggling to support life, Mordek could see the lights of massive cities, orbital elevators stretching up from the surface, and hundreds of ships moving in carefully coordinated traffic patterns. "Captain Mordek," the Admiral said, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting that Mordek had studied in their cultural files. "Welcome to humanity's home. I hope you'll forgive the dramatic circumstances of our first meeting." Joining them was Dr. Xiong Ho, a woman whose calm demeanor somehow made her seem both incredibly intelligent and slightly dangerous. Her dark eyes seemed to take in everything at once, and when she spoke, her words carried the weight of someone who had spent years thinking about this exact moment. "We know this must be overwhelming," she began, settling into a chair that had clearly been designed for human physiology. "For decades, we've been listening to Coalition communications, learning your languages, studying your cultures and political systems. We know that most species believe humanity is nothing more than ancient folklore." Captain Mordek found his voice finally working again. "The stories, they're all true. The ice ages, the asteroid impacts, the predators." Dr. Xiong Ho smiled, but there was something in her expression that made Mordek's skin crawl with a primitive fear. He didn't understand. "The stories were actually quite conservative. Earth has tried to kill us more times than your legends suggest. We've survived ice ages that lasted thousands of years, asteroid impacts that turned day into night for decades, volcanic eruptions that poisoned the air, and plagues that killed half our population. Each time we adapted. Each time we became stronger." Admiral Jinwu activated a holographic display that showed the solar system in detail. "When we first detected Coalition survey probes entering our outer system about 40 years ago, we faced a choice. We could make contact immediately, or we could wait and learn more about our potential neighbors first. We chose to wait," Dr. Xiong Ho continued. "We needed to understand galactic politics, coalition law, trade relationships, military capabilities, and cultural norms before we revealed ourselves. We sent stealth probes to dozens of systems, established hidden monitoring stations, and even infiltrated some coalition data networks. Mordek felt his legs go weak. "You've been spying on us for 40 years? "Not spying," Admiral Jinwoo corrected gently. "Learning. There's a difference. We never interfered with coalition affairs or accessed classified military information. We simply wanted to understand what kind of galaxy we were about to join." Over the next several hours, the humans shared technologies that made Mordek question everything he thought he knew about physics and engineering. They demonstrated communication systems that could send messages across interstellar distances instantaneously, computer networks that seemed to think and adapt on their own, and most incredibly, ships that could somehow fold space around themselves to travel faster than light. "How is this possible?" Mordek asked, staring at a holographic display showing human vessels appearing to teleport from one location to another. The Coalition's best scientists have been trying to develop practical FTL travel for centuries. Dr. Sung-ho exchanged a look with Admiral Jinwoo before answering. "When your species faces extinction every few thousand years, you learn to think about problems differently. We didn't develop these technologies despite our challenges. We developed them because of our challenges." But it was the military demonstration that truly left Mordek speechless. Admiral Jinwoo brought him to Lunar Station's observation deck and pointed toward a section of space that appeared empty. "Watch," he said simply. Suddenly the void filled with ships. Hundreds of vessels of every size and configuration materialized as if they had been there all along, moving in perfect formation. Fighters danced between larger vessels like schools of fish, while massive battleships moved with impossible grace. Despite their enormous size, every human ship is connected to every other human ship through our quantum communication network, Admiral Jinwoo explained. When one ship detects a threat, every ship in the system knows about it instantly. When one captain makes a tactical decision, every other captain can adapt their strategy immediately. Mordek watched in fascination as the fleet performed maneuvers that should have been impossible. Ships changed direction without visible propulsion, formations shifted and flowed like liquid, and individual vessels seemed to anticipate each other's movements with supernatural precision. "But this is just a training exercise," the Admiral continued. "In a real combat situation, you would also be facing our planetary defense systems, our orbital weapons platforms, our automated drone fleets, and our ground-based installations. Earth has been attacked many times throughout our history. We decided long ago that it would never happen again." As the demonstration continued, Mordek realized he was witnessing something that challenged every assumption the Coalition had about warfare, technology, and civilization itself. These humans didn't just fight like a unified species. They fought like a single organism with millions of moving parts, each one perfectly coordinated with all the others. That night, alone in his quarters aboard Lunar Station, Captain Mordek composed an encrypted message to Coalition Command. His hands trembled as he wrote words that he knew would change galactic history forever. Priority Alpha transmission to Coalition Council. The ancient myths were not stories. Humanity is real, and they are everything the legends claimed and more. They have been watching us for decades, while developing technologies that surpass our most advanced capabilities. Their military strength is beyond our current ability to measure or counter. Recommend immediate diplomatic engagement and full recognition of human sovereignty. We are no longer the most advanced species in the galaxy. We may never have been. He stared at the message for a long time before sending it, knowing that once he pressed the transmission button, nothing would ever be the same again. Outside his window, Earth continued its ancient rotation, just as it had for billions of years. But now the rest of the galaxy would finally know that the blue world was not empty, and its children were ready to take their place among the stars. The emergency session alarm echoed through the crystal halls of Zerion Prime like a death knell. Within hours of receiving Captain Mordek's transmission, every major species representative in the Coalition had abandoned their scheduled duties and rushed to the capital world. The Great Assembly Hall, which normally hosted calm debates about trade routes and resource allocation, now buzzed with an energy that bordered on hysteria. Ambassador Veltar sat in stunned silence, remembering his storytelling session just months earlier. The young delegates who had laughed at his tales of mythical humans were now pale and shaken, realizing they had dismissed as folklore what was apparently the most significant intelligence briefing in galactic history. Senior Ambassador Korth of the hegemony paced back and forth like a caged predator, his massive frame casting shadows across the worried faces of smaller delegates. "This is exactly what I warned against," he rumbled, his voice carrying the fury of someone whose worldview had been completely shattered. While we wasted time on children's stories, a military superpower was studying our every weakness. The Altarian delegate, her crystalline features flickering with rapid color changes that indicated extreme stress, raised a trembling appendage. "The report states they have technologies we cannot match. Faster-than-light communication, space folding, propulsion, unified fleet coordination systems. How do we defend against capabilities we cannot even understand?" Defense Minister Korth Allen of the Draconian Republic slammed his clawed fist on the speaking podium. "We have faced unknown threats before. The Coalition controls 17 star systems, with a combined military force of over 10,000 vessels. Surely this single species, no matter how advanced, cannot threaten our entire civilization." But Science Advisor Zethrim was already shaking. Her head, her multiple eyes scanning through the technical data that Captain Mordek had managed to collect. "Minister, these readings suggest their stealth technology alone makes our conventional sensors useless. They could have ships in every Coalition system right now, and we would never know it. Their quantum communication network means they can coordinate attacks across interstellar distances instantaneously." The debates raged for hours, with different factions forming around two primary responses. The military faction, led by Defense Minister Korth Allen, argued for immediate mobilization of all Coalition forces. "We cannot allow any species to hold such overwhelming technological advantages," he declared. "If these humans truly have been watching us for decades, they know our fleet positions, our defensive capabilities, our political weaknesses. We must strike first, before they can use this knowledge against us." But the diplomatic faction, surprisingly, led by Ambassador Veltar himself, urged caution. The report clearly states that these humans made no aggressive moves. They could have destroyed Captain Mordek's vessel easily, but instead they invited peaceful negotiations. Perhaps the old stories were right about more than just their technological abilities. The legends also spoke of humans as protectors of weaker species, not conquerors. The argument might have continued indefinitely, but it was interrupted by an urgent transmission from Coalition deep space monitoring stations. Sensor operator Yildeth appeared on the main screen, her normally calm demeanor replaced by barely controlled panic. "Coalition Council, we are detecting massive spatial distortions approaching Zerion Prime. Unknown vessels are emerging from what appears to be artificially generated hyperspace tunnels. The energy signatures match the readings from Captain Mordek's encounter." The assembly hall fell dead silent. Through the great crystal dome overhead, delegates could see nothing but stars and the familiar glow of Zerion Prime's 3 suns. But they all knew that if the humans were using the same stealth technology that had hidden Lunar Station, the entire system could be filled with invisible ships. Then, as if responding to some unspoken signal, space itself began to shimmer. First, 1 ship appeared, then 10, then hundreds. The human fleet materialized in perfect formation above Zerion Prime, their sleek hulls reflecting the light of the 3 suns like mirrors. Each vessel was different in design, but clearly built by the same technological philosophy that prioritized function over form. They moved with the same supernatural coordination that Captain Mordek had described, flowing through space like a single living organism with thousands of parts. The largest ship, easily twice the size of anything in the Coalition fleet, positioned itself directly above the capital city. Its presence was not threatening. There were no weapons trained on the surface, no hostile postures or aggressive formations. But the message was unmistakably clear. Humanity had arrived, and they were not asking for permission. Admiral Jinwoo's voice filled the assembly hall through the Coalition's communication system, speaking in perfect Coalition standard, with an accent that somehow made him sound both friendly and absolutely confident. Honorable delegates of the Galactic Coalition, I am Admiral Jinwoo of the Earth Defense Force. We come seeking formal recognition as equals in the galactic community. President So-young's image appeared on every screen in the assembly hall, her calm expression somehow more intimidating than any military display. She was young by human standards, but her eyes held the same quality that Dr. Xiang-ho had possessed, the look of someone who had thought through every possible scenario and prepared for all of them. Members of the Coalition Council, she began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who spoke for an entire species. For 40 years, humanity has watched and learned from your example. We have seen the benefits of peaceful cooperation between different species, and we wish to contribute to that tradition. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. We offer our knowledge freely to any species willing to treat Earth as an equal partner. Our quantum communication technology can connect your worlds instantaneously. Our medical advances can extend lifespans and eliminate diseases that have plagued your peoples for millennia. Our defensive capabilities can protect Coalition space from external threats that individual species cannot face alone. The diplomatic offer was perfectly crafted, but everyone in the assembly understood the unspoken alternative. Humanity was not begging to join the Coalition. They were announcing their intention to do so, with or without official approval. Defense Minister Korthalan, who had been advocating for military action just minutes earlier, now sat in complete silence. The sight of the human fleet had made it clear that any conflict would be catastrophically one-sided. Ambassador Veltar rose to his feet, his 4 eyes focused on President So-young's image. On behalf of the Zephyrian Republic, I formally welcome humanity to the Galactic Coalition. The ancient stories spoke of humans as guardians and protectors. Perhaps the galaxy needs such guardians now more than ever. One by one, other delegates voiced their agreement. The alternative, attempting to exclude a species that possessed overwhelming technological superiority and had demonstrated perfect intelligence about Coalition operations, was simply unthinkable. The Terror Accords were drafted, negotiated, and signed within 72 hours. Humanity became the Coalition's newest member species, but everyone understood that they were also its most powerful. The ancient myths had become reality, and the balance of galactic power had shifted forever. Years later, historians would mark this moment as the beginning of the second age of galactic civilization. Humanity's technologies revolutionized communication, transportation, and defense across Coalition space. Their exploration fleets pushed the boundaries of known space further than ever before. And when external threats eventually emerged from the galactic core, it was human coordination and determination that held the Coalition together. The mythical species had returned to take their place among the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same.